El trabajo de Casa Asia sobre el agua es parte de una inquietud, de una línea de trabajo que ya desarrolla Casa Asia desde hace algunos años, relacionada con las temáticas, la problemática del desarrollo, de la cooperación al desarrollo y de la gobernanza, temas económicos, sociales y políticos que están estrechamente interrelacionados. Saben ustedes que es uno de los objetivos más importantes del grupo de objetivos denominados Objetivos de Desarrollo del Milenio de Naciones Unidas. Por lógica, ya que nos preocupa el agua, la gestión del agua, es decir, la gestión del agua dulce, sobre todo, de los recursos hídricos, plantea muchos retos desde diferentes perspectivas. La perspectiva económica, la perspectiva social, la perspectiva medioambiental, la política, la geopolítica, la geoestratégica. Podríamos seguir introduciendo seguramente todos los objetivos que se nos ocurrieran.
Muchas gracias a todos, gracias por estar aquí. Primero quiero agradecer a Casa Asia pues, que dé la oportunidad a una fundación como nosotros que nos dedicamos a intentar paliar el tema del agua, de los recursos hídricos en el planeta, pues tener la oportunidad de pasar la película, pasar el documental y hablar con ustedes pues, unos segundos, ¿no? La fundación tiene dos objetivos fundamentales. El primero es intentar crear conciencia sobre la problemática de los recursos hídricos, sobre la necesidad de crear una nueva cultura del agua en el mundo. Y la segunda es actuar en diversas áreas del planeta intentando paliar estos efectos negativos pues, que tiene la mala utilización del agua, la mala gestión del agua, una mala higiene, una mala salud, ¿no?
This evening's roundtable on water and development in Asia is an example of Casa Asia's efforts. It brings together three outstanding experts on water resource management.
Right away, one of the big issues here is hydropower generation. The Chinese are sitting on a gold mine of energy. Falling water is very valuable for generating electricity, particularly in China, particularly in that area. And in fact, this is one of the river basins with potentially maybe 40,000 megawatts of hydroelectric power available, and plans to develop 26,000 megawatts of that energy. So we're talking about potential major developments in the region. It's the second most biodiverse river in the world after the Amazon, supports the world's largest freshwater capture fishery of about 2.3 million tons. So that's an interesting story when you look at what happened in the Aral Sea, what can happen to freshwater fisheries if one isn't careful. You know, the question is, the river basin has been there for a long time. These countries have been there for a long time. Why hasn't it developed? Well, it hasn't developed for a variety of reasons. Colonialism, for instance, seems to get in the way of lots of good things happening in the world. There was lots of anti-Western problems in the earlier part. Now Laos and Vietnam and China is pursuing economic liberalization under Communist Party rule, so we say a new version of capitalism being developed by the communists in that region. Thailand's dominance of the Mekong Basin is resented by many of the other countries. So Thailand had been the big country until the Chinese appeared on the scene. This is an international river shared between those countries and among those countries, but there is no international law that's strong. There is customary law which we would hope the people would obey, would follow, but again, that is based on negotiation among and between the partners.
We are not likely to see a closing of the water demand and supply gap in the next 20 years. What this will mean is that Asia's towns and cities, which are currently the principal drivers of economic growth, the principal job creators, are not going to be able to remain competitive and create those jobs and stimulate the economy as they are doing currently. But this is not to say that the cities of Asia, which, as I said a moment ago, are the principal drivers of economic growth, must be ignored, because it is in the cities of Asia where efficiencies also are very, very important and where they are currently missing. A recent estimate has indicated that about 50% of the treated water produced in Asia's urban centers is lost every year, conservatively valued at $9 billion at a volume of about 30 billion cubic meters. Now that's a lot of water, and that's a lot of energy, and that's a lot of carbon emissions. And at a point in time when we are all very concerned about climate change, the impacts of climate change, particularly in regard to adaptation on water management issues, this is a very worrying figure. And this tells us that the political leadership and the consumers of urban water and environmental sanitation services across Asia must be concerned and worried about the volume of water that is lost annually. It costs governments and water authorities a lot of money to treat the water and to deliver it to your taps and to your showers. And this water has to be paid for. Wherever water in Asia has been treated as a business, everybody has benefited. The poor have gained, as have the less poor. And this is a model that must be replicated across Asia urgently.
Irrigation requested knowledge of astronomy, knowledge of mathematics for prediction of flood, prediction and management of water. Round table said that we must to create new culture. I think it is wrong. We don't need to create new culture of water. We need renovated historical respect to water. What we are doing now in Central Asia, we tried to keep, because after collapse of Soviet Union, we immediately create the mutual the body which manage water of these two rivers, Amu Darya and Sir Darya. It's Interstate Coordination Water Commission.
What it makes clear is that, I mean, population, energy, and water are so interrelated, and if you don't have a population planning program, all of your water planning will just, it will never be able to keep up with it.
There is no imperative, there is no urge for reform of the population space, as it were. And it's too sensitive a subject for any government to deal with. So we've got to look for efficiencies in other areas and not in the population space.